Welcome to Ready Layer One. This is a Web3 podcast that focuses on the near ecosystem. How are you doing, Joe?
I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah, because this is a slightly different one because I did an interview in New York with David from the Near Foundation, talking on my final video installment of my journey of understanding BOS, the blockchain operating system that is building on Near protocol. So I thought before this video, because it's sort of like the tail end and we get into like what it is and stuff, maybe just you and I chat a little bit about like our thoughts on BOS and what you think about it from a developer point of view, and what I think about it from like a marketing point of view.
Sure.
Yeah. So what did you think? You watched the interview. What did you think of it?
Yeah, so I think it's a great capstone to the whole series. And I think everyone should go follow the whole series too, because what's nice about the way it's all laid out is it goes from starting of knowing nothing to, getting different pieces. And as you talk to different people in the ecosystem, it really starts to paint that picture. And then what David does really nicely is gives you a really succinct explanation of how would you explain this to somebody else.
Yeah.
And then also too, when you hear how he explains it, you then see the bigger picture, and you can see, okay, I get where this is a year, 2 years from now.
Yeah.
Where I think for myself, speaking about just from a product standpoint, it's definitely hard to look at it now and get the whole picture, because it feels underdeveloped, because it is. So and it feels underdeveloped, and so I think it's nice to hear David, who is part of the Near Foundation, who knows this really well and knows what the bigger picture is, to put it in such simple terms.
I did this series. I think I'm at like 18 posts or something about it, and like I wanted to understand what the BOS is because it's complex. Like it is not like a paint by numbers super simple thing. There's like gateways, then there's components and widgets, and then there's virtual machines, and then there's like all sorts of stuff and forking code and all this. Like it's to the average like person like me, like the extraordinarily average is it's just like I'm an average person who's into this space. It's a little confusing. And so after this, I think the stuff that I really gravitated towards is like, how can projects leverage it, and how much of the BOS do you actually have to use, right? Like, is it 100% BOS? No. Like, and there's a point in this video that you're going to watch where David breaks down this, how current projects can leverage different parts of it. And he also says that the BD team over at Near Foundation is really happy about this, right? Like, because this is like projects want to do that. It's like, I've got a project, but I maybe want to pull a couple of these components and use them, right?
Yeah.
And it was a really like it like put everything together. Like my mind was blown at that moment because it connected so many dots that I've been like figuring out over the last month.
I think what it really does it too for me is that, like, I would even take it a step further. Like, it's not even just like the average user who maybe feels confused. Like, I, as a developer, I am very torn with it a lot, right? So like, we have our own project that we're building, and so it's like, oh, where does that fit into what I'm building, and where, at what point do I dedicate resources to that versus more of the traditional, building methods? And so to start to hear what the possibilities are, to understand what the vision is, I think that helps anybody start to get better perspective on what's going on here and what the possibilities really are.
I think David in this interview really knocks it out of the park with his explanation. There's 5 questions. He answers them all very succinctly. And they're for like, the way he answers it is for the user, not the developer. Like he really lays it out clearly. And I appreciate that. And the thing that really hooked me too is like, eventually in the future, it's an app store like place for decentralized components and widgets that people can leverage different parts of it. And for our project, Shard Dog, I was like, okay, so what can I leverage? Because we still need to make business models. We still need to make profit to try to make sustainable businesses.
Yep.
Can you do that by leveraging certain parts that elevate and add more value to your project for your users? And that's where my mind's at on it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people who are trying to actually build a product on its own, not a feature, right, but a product on its own, and you see this, and it makes you kind of think about like, okay, where is this too experimental for me as well, or all that stuff. So again, to hear someone put it into such clear terms, it helps a lot. I think it's something where I'd be curious of, like, if we go back to this in 6 months from now, of what are people's sentiment about the boss, and what does that really look like, and how does that and how are people starting to leverage it? Because you hope that month after month that people start to, push it a little bit further to hopefully get it to a point that David's talking about of becoming that larger, possibly app store for everybody.
I hope so. Well, everyone, I really hope you enjoyed this interview. I had just as much fun. This was such a fun time. I mean, like a little backstory on David meeting me. So he was in New York for something. We meet at this like working space, but it was packed. So we went to the coffee shop, but it was like a midtown, super like corporate coffee shop, and we just put a gimbal camera on a table and just talked like and passed the mic back and forth, super lo-fi, and it turned out I think really well. We just had a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's a great interview.
Yeah, definitely, everyone. So I hope you enjoy. We're here in New York. Look, I'm here with David. All right. So this is the final video for my Jared's journey into the boss, right? And I've gone through what the boss is, and then I saw your talk. What was the most recent one you just did? It was great.
That was at Coin Bureau Live in London.
Dude, you succinctly described boss, and I understood it. So I want for this final video you to describe it to me, to everybody.
So if you follow what the suits at the top say, there's like a verbatim definition, right? Which Ilya used, but Ilya went on to describe it brilliantly as well. And that's a common layer for browsing and discovering open web experiences, right? But what does that mean? I think we risk falling into another one of these rabbit holes where we start throwing around words that nobody really gets.
Yep.
So I like to think of it as it's sort of a multifaceted product, right? Because ultimately that's what it is. It's made up of multiple different layers, many of which I won't get into because I think when you get into the technicality of it,
agree,
you start thinking, what?
When you start saying VMs and like you can do like an ETH thing or like build a Bitcoin thing,
yeah, like okay, all that's possible, brilliant. But I'm trying to tackle it from the user point of view. So what is it? Well, we call it the blockchain operating system, and I think a clue is in the title there, right? So what's an operating system fundamentally? So you whip out your Windows laptop to head onto OnlyFans to get your subscription or whatever it might be. You're using Microsoft Windows, the operating system. You pull out your iPhone and you're using iOS to access Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Tinder, whatever it might be. You're using the iOS operating system, and what that does is it abstracts the hardware to a level where it's easy for anybody to use, right?
So abstracting the hardware and getting out of the details is like what I've been trying to do.
Yep.
So when you say it's like an operating system, it's like most users should never even have to worry about it. Like the boss is heavily like languaged towards developers. So when projects build on the boss, the developers are the ones that are getting into the VMs, the gateways, the widgets, the components, whichever one you want to call those. But then the users will only see it as like logging into an app store.
Yeah, so think of it like this. What is a computer ultimately? What is all the software you use? If you boil it down, it's zeros and ones, right? That's all it is. It's zeros and ones. But you don't see the zeros and ones. You see google.com, right? And it's super easy to use. That's exactly what the blockchain operating system is going to do. You don't need to wrap your head around public keys and private keys and blockchains and bridges and RPCs. No. Like, I know we talk about mass adoption all the time and it's a bit of a buzzword in the space. There is no way on this planet that is going to happen until my grandma and my mum can use it without them knowing that they're using it.
Exactly, right? And like, no one uses the internet now and is like, oh yeah, I'm actually logging onto this website, but it's going to Amazon Web Services. And then what's cool is that the cloud also kind of splits off into multiple, and no one cares. Like, no one. Oh, it's written on JavaScript? Oh, I'm going to use that. Like, I agree with you in that sense where it's abstracted away to where it doesn't even, it shouldn't even pop into a user's mind, whether it's a VM or whatever.
Yeah, 100%. Another huge component of it, I believe, is all of this stuff in Web 2 that we've come to know and love, right? So you want to find the best restaurant in New York. What do? You go to Google, you search it, it's there. You can confidently rely on the TripAdvisor reviews or the Yelp page. We don't have that level of searchability in Web3 right now. Right? It's absolutely not there. If you want to find a DEX on Avalanche, you might go to Google, and then you might click on a scam link, and then you might connect your wallet, and then all your funds are gone. That's just wild, right? It's absolutely insane. So we need to bring all the benefits of Web 2 to Web 3 and solve this menagerie of problems that both Web 2 and Web 3 experience. And I think, well, in fact, I'm 100% confident that the BOS in its final form will do that.
I think when I first started learning about the BOS, it was really overwhelming. That's why I'm doing this, because I was like, there's a lot here to unpack. And it's broken up into what I kind of figure out is like components and widgets, which are what developers are making for projects to use, and gateways are a way for people, users, to connect with those projects.
Yeah.
Is that roughly it? Then there's a lot of technical stuff on the back end, like VMs help go multi-chain, which no one really needs to fully understand except for the developers, right? And then I think I want to unpack this discovery thing about it, because I think discovery / searchability is the missing piece in Web3. And I think your Avalanche DEX was a perfect example. What do you see are some other examples of discovery and searchability within the BOS that might be helpful? And this can be a little bit more near specific too.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I like to compare it to like an app store, right? So do you remember years and years and years ago when the iPhone first came out and everybody downloaded that app that let you drink a beer and you tilted it and the beer went, or you pressed the button and like a lighter came on, right?
I do.
Primitive apps, but give birth to absolutely everything people use on a day-to-day basis right now.
Yeah.
The apps and components of the blockchain operating system are probably about to cross that bridge from, primitive experimentation to apps and components that people can really, really use and get their hands into it. Now, when it comes to searchability, I foresee a world, and this is ultimately down to the direction that you guys, the developers and the community, take it. I head to the blockchain operating system, I head to near.org, or I head to one of 1,000 gateways, whatever, one which allows me to search for specific applications, and I put in Uniswap. The first one will be Uniswap. It's got 5 million positive reviews, and guys, this works flawlessly.
Yeah.
The UI is brilliant. And then the next one is like Uniswap Advanced, where people have taken Uniswap and built on top of it because all they did was fork the code, and now you can do magical things that you couldn't do on like let's call it the vanilla version of Uniswap, right?
So you can fork things, and you can take current components, fork them for your own use, and then you're kind of relying on the community to rate them and figure out which are like the better vetted.
Yeah, I mean there is no rating process in place right now, but it would be pretty easy to spin up, right? That's where the direction that I see it going in terms of reliability and avoiding scams, etc., etc. I think the magnificent part about apps and components and the forkability of them, I don't know if you've watched Josh Ford's demonstration at ETH Denver. So he did a live demo of the blockchain operating system and showed just how easy it was to build decentralized front ends for any dApp on any blockchain, and it probably took him about 3 minutes. He took existing code for Lido, copied, pasted it into what would be his homepage, refreshed it, pushed it, and it was all there, right? It just works. It was absolutely incredible.
Now, to kind of pivot a little bit to leveraging the components for existing projects to make business models. I think we're in a valley right now where you had this sort of like 2022 narrative where a lot of projects were launching, but not a whole lot had business models in mind. It was almost like the beer drinking app.
Yeah.
A lot of those were the beer drinking app. It's proof of concept. So now there's this valley, and then the next part of this valley is going to be projects with real use cases that have business models around them that drive traffic. And is the BOS going to be a good place for existing projects to pull components out, add it to their projects, even if it's sort of like isn't 100% BOS native?
Yeah, 100%. And that's a really huge pitch that the BD team have been getting incredible reception from Web 2 companies. And let me give you an example. So we all know that Sweatcoin or hopefully you do. One of the largest Web 2 applications in the entire world. I think they had 130 million downloads. And they drove about 15 million wallet creations on Neo when they launched their Web 3 aspect. And they do have plans to build on the BOS. I don't know what it is, but this, in my fictional scenario in my head, is how it's built. So you open your Sweatcoin application, and then you head to, let's call it the App Store, or you hit Explore, whatever it might be, whatever their designers choose. And then they have what is essentially a gateway to the blockchain operating system. So all of the apps that are built on the BOS can be accessed through the Sweatcoin app as long as you're signed into your wallet, right? And they could go a step further. They could add rules and regulations, right? So, okay, we only want highly vetted apps.
They could curate the apps.
Exactly.
Even. They could say these are the 12 apps we've curated.
100%. So you got 1,000 Sweatcoin from walking last month, and you want to swap it on Ref. Well, you don't need to jump out of Sweatcoin or anything. You just sit in the Sweatcoin app, hit Explore, open up the Ref app, boom, it's done. Could be anything.
Dude, that's the moment that you just connected 2 dots for me. That's awesome, because now, oh wow.
And this is the thing, right? This is the thing that really gets me going and wakes me up in the morning. I am 100% convinced that we have not seen the best of the blockchain operating system yet. We have not seen it whatsoever.
Absolutely, man. I mean, it's. I think the blockchain operating system, the BOS, the absolute hardest thing is in an ecosystem Web3, which is now like 10 different verticals. Like 2017, it was like 2 verticals. But now we're getting into these like more niche, and there needs to be like higher level discussion. So BOS is its own thing. I think getting people to wrap their head around that is going to be the challenge. But it might be that people don't need to wrap their head around it. It's just that use cases need to just adopt it where people don't even know they're using it. And then just one day we're going to wake up and there's going to be 50,000 projects using BOS.
100%. And all of them can benefit from decentralized front ends. They can benefit from a full suite of dev tooling. Like you aren't, for lack of a better word, cuckolded by certain big Web 2 companies that send you a bill for $5,000 every month, right? Like it's gone.
Yeah. The fact that anybody's building a project that's based off a Web 2 API charging you, to me, is like bananas. I'm like, I mean, I guess if you're in Web 2, do it. But if you're a Web 3 project and you're like, I want to be stuck on a API that can just be turned off at any time. So I do think that's so radical as well. How's the BOS run? I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I guess that kind of makes sense. But define like what do you mean by like manages the BOS, right? So the blockchain operating system, the decentralized front ends, all of that developer tooling that we referenced earlier, and Ilya goes into the specifics in his talk at Consensus called Unpacking the BOS, which will give you a more technical understanding of it. But it's all on-chain, right? Like it's on-chain from end to end. So in terms of who's running it, well, the validators are running it, right? Like the people like you, Jared, and you, Joe, like you guys are running it. And right now it's 220 validators? Look, that's gonna be tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, if not millions one day.
Oh, I think the chunk validator is Near's like greatest untapped resource that, I mean, Joe and I are doing it and a couple other projects, but I see in 5 years from now, every single project will have a chunk validator that has any sort of capital behind them, because it will just make sense, especially when you start seeing how you can leverage them in part of your business model. Oh man, that's a whole other video, man. I love that. But okay, cool. So I think like to wrap this up, like the final thing before we go, what would you like to say to everybody about the blockchain operating system as like parting words to them?
Yeah, it's a good question. Well, I think because it's still relatively early days, there's a huge focus on developers and talent coming over to the blockchain operating system to build all of these things that I can sit here on my nice chair and ideate about, but I'm not smart enough to build. So I would love to encourage every single Web 2 developer, Web 3 developer, Web 4 developer, Jack Dorsey, you and your whole gang, come over and you will realize that you do not have to learn how to use a different axe to build a house, right? You already know what you need to know in order to build on the blockchain operating system. I can assure you of that if you have any remote understanding of JavaScript. And quite frankly, all of the tools in the toolbox needed to build this house, which is your project, the future of the open web, they're all there waiting for you, right? Just pick them up and start building.
That's great, man. And thank you so much for meeting me. I just want to point out, we're in New York. You came and you just had time to sit with me. This is really cool. And like, it's just going to be such a cool thing to see. And every developer that I know personally that has started messing with the boss instantly gets it. And there's that moment where they're like, okay, boom, next thing they start sending widgets, start making widgets. It really is designed and created in a way that's developer friendly, but also developer inspiring. And I think that is something that like Joe, who is my co-founder and other half in Ready Layer 1, it's inspired him to start making things like he's been coding for 20 years, and it's like, now he's doing all these radical things that are awesome because he got inspired. And I think that's like the coolest thing about BOS that made me go, let's dive in. All right, man. Well, thank you so much for being part of this.
It's been a pleasure, guys.
Yeah.
Ready Layer 1 is provided for educational, informational, and entertainment purposes only, without any express or implied warranty of any kind, including warranties of accuracy, completeness, or fitness for any particular purpose.
You should not make any decision, financial investment, trading, or otherwise based on any of the information presented in this podcast without undertaking independent due diligence and consultation with a professional broker or financial advisory.